Okay, so let's arbitrarily decide that clock will be initialized to 0. Let's say D will be initialized to 1, Q will be initialized to 0, and since Q bar is the opposite of Q, Q bar is going to be 1 as well. And since Q bar is also connected to D, Q bar will be whatever D, or D will be whatever Q bar is. By the way, this is all arbitrary. We could have started with the clock at 1 and then the Q at 1 and Q bar and D at 0, but we're just going with this because it doesn't really matter. Okay, so let's say the clock switch is on. That means that whatever value is in D will be stored into Q. And D is 1 right now, so Q will become 1. And since Q bar will be whatever the opposite of Q is, Q bar will be 0. And then since D is connected to Q bar, whatever is in Q bar will go into D. So Q bar is 0. The new D is 0. Okay. This cycle is all done. Let's go to the next cycle. Clock goes from 1 to 0. Okay. When the clock goes from 1 to 0, does the flip-flop do anything? No. The Q and the Q bar don't change, which means that D doesn't change either. So everything stays the same. We can just copy all of the values from the previous column. All right, next cycle. Clock changes from 0 to 1. That means that whatever value is in D will be stored in Q, and D is 0 right now. So Q will take on the value of 0 from D. Q bar will be 1 since it's the opposite of Q. And since Q bar feeds into D, the new D will be 1. Next, clock goes from 1 to 0 again. And again, the flip-flop doesn't do anything when the clock goes from 1 to 0. It only does anything when the clock goes from low to high, aka from 0 to 1. So copy over everything again, etc. The next iteration is going to be the exact same. Clock changes from 0 to 1. Q takes D, which is 1. Q bar is opposite of Q. And then D takes Q bar, which is 0. And then clock goes from 1 to 0 again. Everything stays the same. Clock goes from 0 to 1. Again, Q takes in the value of D. Q bar is opposite of Q. D is the Q bar. And again, just to reiterate for like the fourth time, the guiding principle throughout this whole thing is that whenever the clock goes from 0 to 1, Q takes in the value of D, whatever D is. And so now if you notice, the values of Q are in pairs, right? And same with Q bar. Right? They come in groups of 2. And so that's why the tempo is slowed, right? Every 2 cycles of clock, we get 1 cycle of Q and also Q bar. So that's how the frequency divider works.